Hey Saints. Well, I just wanted to pass on what I think is a little blessing. I'm prepping for my Sunday school class tomorrow, and I think the Lord might have showed me something kind of neat. Um, I'm going to be teaching Daniel 9 through 12 in the adult Sunday school with a focus on kind of the end time implications of all the stuff, because that's kind of where the passages are focused. But in particular, there's a verse or a couple of verses in Matthew 24 where Jesus said, when you see the abomination and desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel. And what I think is curious about that is Daniel speaks of that abomination and desolation 3 different times. And so there's going to be a little bit of a study there. But since I was back in Matthew 24 looking at it, I think the Lord dropped something else on me, which is really cool. So to get context, you always want to back up a little bit. And for folks that have watched my videos where I go through some of the Gospels, who the Gospels are written to are really important. In the case of Matthew, I firmly believe it's a gospel written to the Jewish people throughout, time since it was written, calling them to recognize Jesus as the Messiah. And so there's not a lot of foreshadowing of the church in Matthew's gospel. Matter of fact, all the gospels record Jesus' acts and sayings, which were before the church was born, right? Jesus died, was buried, rose again, and it wasn't until Pentecost that the church was born. But Matthew's gospel in particular is to the Jewish people, not really foreshadowing the church. And it shows up in a bunch of places, like the frequent references to the kingdom, which, I've had videos where the theologians say that that kingdom reference in Matthew's gospel in particular is what we call the millennial reign. And in Matthew 23 here, since we backed up a little bit for context, you can see Matthew 23, woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. This is Jesus chastising the Jewish faith leaders of the day. You blind guides, woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, blind Pharisees, woe unto you. He's drilling them, he's drilling them, he's drilling them. And so you can see Jesus' focus here, especially coming into Matthew 24, is the Jews of the day, the faith leaders of the day. And then he kind of finishes Matthew 23 here, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, though that killest the prophets and stoned them which are sent unto thee, how often I would have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and yet you would not. Behold, your house is left to you desolate. For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth till you shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And so you can see now, Jesus in terms of his thought process about the current Jewish day belief system. He's giving you one marker about it, the house being left desolate, but basically you're not going to see him henceforth until they say, blessed he that cometh in the name of the Lord, which is what's exactly happening here with the Jewish people throughout time. And so leading right into that, because there was no chapter breaks in the original, right? And Jesus went out and departed from the temple. His disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? And really, sorry, context here again. Let's take a look at the Strong's reference to the world as aeon, properly an age. And first rule of biblical interpretation is that, Scripture, when it was given, had to make sense to the people it was being given to. What was the end of the age for the Jewish people pre-church age? Well, it would be the end of the dispensation of law. And when does that happen? Well, during the church age, we weren't under the law. At the close of the church age, the dispensation switches back to the Jewish people to finish the last 7 years of the law, and that actually is pictured there in Daniel 9:24 through 27, but in particular in verse 27. And so what is the sign of that coming and the end of the age, which is the end of the tribulation period, put in other terms? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Now, a whole bunch of popular theologians, David Jeremiah comes to mind. Trying to think who else is in his camp. There's a handful of them. Oh, Dr. John MacArthur. There's a bunch of them that see, starting here kind of in verse 4 and down, that the pattern that false Christ and then war and then, earthquakes and pestilence, if you just take it at that level and you look what's the topic of those verses in order, it matches the seals in Revelation 6. The white rider on the white horse that has a bow and no arrows, and then the red horse, the war that breaks out, and then, on it goes. Black horse, the famine, then death. It follows the pattern in order. So that would mean that, Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. False Christ comes, and then there's wars and rumors of wars. And in prior videos, and we don't have time to go till this up again, I showed the parallelism of the language used for that Revelation 6 in general, but in that war section is very likely the war of Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38 and 39. And it's also in parallel probably Joel 2 in the first part of it there, where it talks about the army from the north, and when it's defeated, that the stink rises up from it. And why that is all important is because we've probably had 4 or 5 videos at least showing that the Jewish rabbis of the day are all on fire right now because they think the Messiah is about to arrive. And I would say the general theme, and a good place to go for the resource on this, is Breaking Israeli News. I've done a number of videos right off of the articles there because they have discussions with the rabbis and they report on it. But the general theme is we have to endure this one Gog and Magog battle, but then the redemption of all Israel comes at the close of that finally, what they would say is the Mashiach is about to arrive. And in the videos I was doing, I was showing how, they got that wrong using their own scripture, the Tanakh, that, it's the time of Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30, that it's pictured as an expanse of time. You can look at Zechariah, you definitely can look at Amos 5, Micah, I want to say 4 or 5, where they're actually taken back one case says beyond Damascus, and the other case it says to Babylon again. And so there's going to be another unfortunate, capture of a number of Jewish people that get hauled back to Babylon, aka what's what's happened in the past, with the first Babylonian dispersion under Nebuchadnezzar, and so it's going to happen again. So this idea that there's going to be a war and it's going to be over quickly, according to the vision that one young Jewish boy received. He said in his vision, he was in heaven. He was told it's going to be a 2-week war and then the redemption of all Israel. And I just really am challenged by that because it's not what Scripture says. And so this is what dawned on me. I'm reading this, and this is exactly what it says. Jesus said, take heed that no man deceive you. Now, remember the Jewish context of this. He just got done in Matthew 23 drilling the rabbis or the Pharisees and the Sadducees that they were blind guides and they were, you can go read the text. It was all harsh condemnation. They said, you're not going to see me again until, well, he said, the temple will be destroyed, then you're not going to see me again. Basically till the end. And, what Jesus' first thing he talks about is the temple being destroyed. Check, 70 AD. And then he comes down and he's talking about the end of the age. He says, don't be deceived, okay? Many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. How primed are the rabbis in Israel right now to receive what we would call from the New Testament the Antichrist? I mean, I must have done 3 or 4 videos just on rabbis, different groups of them saying the Messiah is coming, the Messiah is coming, just this one war, Messiah is coming. For many shall come in my name saying, I am Christ, I am Mashiach, right? And deceive many. Well, boy, you could see that coming. You'll hear of wars and rumors of wars. Ezekiel 38:39. But be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And so that was my big clue. He's saying right here that regardless of what the rabbis are telling you, the Pharisees, the Sadducees of Matthew 23, the end is not yet. Oh, I think that is so good. I hope that just landed with you. Because I think a classic interpretation of this is either just to ignore it because this is just following the pattern of the seals being open, or I think in the case of like Dr. Missler, he says, well, these are non-signs because the end is not yet. So we're not talking about the tribulation yet because these are non-signs. And then he comes down and says, this is the tribulation here. Boy, this is too good. And then he describes nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. These are the beginning of sorrows. So sorrows is another one of those watch phrases from the Old Testament about the tribulation period. So you have to you have to bracket all this. When you say these, the antecedent is the description of all these activities happening. It's the beginning of sorrows, it's the beginning of the tribulation period. And so, yeah, I think this is a direct warning for what we're seeing today, is there's going to be a false Christ that comes. He's going to deceive many because the rabbis are so primed to receive him that they're going to have a war, and there's going to be declared the war of Gog and Magog, and they're probably going to be right, by the way. And then the guy that shows up, because it's going to be supernaturally put down by God himself, the guy that shows up on the heels of that somehow, we don't know how, is going to be the Antichrist. And that's just going to fit their current expectation. They're going to say that's the Mashiach, right? But these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And so that redemption of all Israel is what Jesus is warning about. Man, okay. I might be in a space by myself, but I'm pretty fired up by what I think the Lord just showed me. Well, anyways, I'll leave you there, saints. God bless. Okay, you can hang up if you want, but if you're interested at all in Daniel 9 through the end, I just gassed a whole bunch of time trying to figure something out. If you want to hang on, I'll show you something that if you're interested in those passages might save you a ton of time. Hang on, let me re-expand the screen. I'll be right back. Okay, a little quick addendum. Daniel 9, I was trying to sort out these last few chapters. Who's it? What time frame are they referencing, and who's who here? In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. So my MacArthur Study Bible says it's Cyrus, the one that came in and conquered Babylon. But I ran into some really interesting info in an archaeology, biblical archaeology site called BibleHistory.net. And he has great documentation that this Darius being spoke of, and Darius is the Medes version of saying the one with the scepter, or the ruler with the scepter. So the first year of the ruler with the scepter, the son of Ahasuerus, which was a name also given to kings of the, I think, of the Persian persuasion. This guy is the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. What is that? And so when the Medo-Persians conquered Babylon, what really happened was King Cyrus was upstream a ways, cutting off the flow of water, and then his relative, and there's a little bit of a debate, uncle, whatever, his relative, who was a Mede, his relative was the general over the Medes portion of the Medo-Persian armies, and they were the ones that ran under the gate first to take Babylon. After Babylon's taken, that Mede, his name was Gubaru. Gubaru is then made king over Babylon, and according to the secular writings out of Babylon, he appoints 120 satraps and 3 rulers over it or whatever, and exactly fits the Bible, which was cool. And so go to BibleHistory.net. You can download the article or look at the article, Historical Evidence, Belshazzar and Darius the Mede. That's the article. So here you go. The general that was under Cyrus after Babylon was taken is appointed ruler and king over Babylon, which agrees with what the Bible said. His name was Gubaru. Okay, so that's that. Now, he's got a short lifespan, however, and that'll be important in a minute. Go to Daniel 10. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the appointed time was long, and the understanding of this thing, and he had understanding of the vision. The 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Well, that one's more clear. This is the Cyrus that Isaiah said was to come, that would be God's one to release or to send the Jews home. Now, the 3rd year of his kingship may be a reference to in terms of Babylon. So, Cyrus was the king. Darius the Mede, Gubaru, was appointed king of the Babylonian part of the empire, but Cyrus was the king, and he became the king of the Babylonians. Potentially what this is saying is the third year that he was king over the Babylonians, because that's where Daniel was. Now, I don't know how far before that Cyrus was made king of Persia, but I think that's what the reference is to. Okay, and then you come down to 11. It says, also, did I do 10? Yeah, 11. Also the first year of Darius the Mede. And I went, what? Because 10 is taught as the prelude to 11 and 12. But how do you start with this context? Well, as it turns out, our buddy Gubru, Darius the Mede from chapter 9, dies within a couple years of being appointed the king over the land of Babylon. Now all of a sudden you got the first year of Darius the Mede, and I'm presuming, since Darius is the title again, that this is his successor. And that would all make sense, because I think what Daniel is saying here is it's the third year since, that Cyrus and his troops took Babylon, and it's also the first year of this new king, of this new Darius of the Medes that controls Babylon. So hope that benefits somebody. Burned a lot of cycles. I think my MacArthur Study Bible is wrong, and a couple other references I had led me astray, but I think that's the answer. So if that helps somebody, God bless.